From the shores of Malibu where the waves are pumping to the Great Wall of China and back to the streets of Las Vegas where the UFC is happening. We are live. This is It's Time Radio, the show where we talk about what you think about but may be afraid to voice. Don't worry, we'll voice it for you. We talk about it all. Politics, TV, film, UFC, sex, drugs, rock and roll, and who better to make this go further than my co-host TJ DeSantis, one of the sexiest men alive, according to his wife, and popular demand. And of course, we have the man that will put in his words, my opinion, the greatest commentator in sports. This man deserves every accolade he can get. John, your words, your voice, your passion for the sport is amazing. Jon Anik, folks, my brother from another mother. How are you, John?
Thank you, buddy. Oh, I'm doing well. That's way too kind. That's a tremendous color on you. I think you should wear that shirt every other week on the program. You know, I mean, Buff's got all his suits in the closet. If you listen to It's Time Radio, you know this, but there's a rotation. Certainly new suits get into that rotation. I think that blue shirt should, you know, be in the regular rotation.
Oh, thank you. I'll throw it in the rotate or rotation, as you say. It's all good. But thank you. You know, listen, I love the ocean blue, one of my favorite colors. All good.
Do we still call it It's Time Radio in this day and age of podcasts? Because ultimately, my podcast, it's really just a radio show.
Like It's Time Radio. That's what I'm saying. It flows off the tongue better. I mean, podcasts are basically the modern version of radio shows. I get no problem with it. Do you?
Well, no, it's all radio. To go old school here.
It's all radio.
I'm so old school. You can't even see me on your big dumb screens right now. That's how old school I'm kicking it right now.
Yeah, that's why you're.
My UFC job is a radio job, except it doesn't have like the super hard parts of radio insofar as you don't have to really paint the picture truly, right? Because there are pictures, but we're not on camera really at all. It's a radio gig, and I'm okay.
That's right. Well, you know, when you're as good looking as you are, John, you should be on camera. TJ's often said he is a radio face, but you know what? I think he's a handsome guy. So come on, TJ, fix that video. You're the technical master.
I'm working on it.
All right, work on it. Well, before we go on to anything else, I want to pay homage with a very heavy heart to the sad news this week of the loss of a great UFC and MMA role model, the Canadian fighter, Elias Theodorou. And again, John, did I say his name correctly, please? Okay,
yes,
with all respect. At 34 years old, this great guy. I always liked him. He lit up every room with his positive energy, and but he passed away from liver cancer that went into his colon and it caused him to pass. I have not seen him or talked to him for a couple of years. I don't know how long this battle he fought, but it's so tragic, John, at 34 years old. Aside from being one of the most handsome men, you know, ever to enter the sport, that's beside the point. He's one of the nicest men I've ever met in the sport.
Oh, it's so sad. It's just so heavy. He didn't have any enemies in mixed martial arts, as far as I can tell, and seemed to make, you know, an effort and an imprint on anyone, you know, that sort of crossed his wake. So it's just, it's very sad. You know, us cannabis guys stick together, and obviously that was his big initiative. And it was his big mission to get a therapeutic use exemption for medical use of cannabis, and he succeeded with an athletic commission. You know, the great MMA journalist from Canada, Aaron Bronstetter, sort of told that story on our podcast, and you know, I'm glad he was able to complete that mission, and I'm certainly glad that his MMA career was as successful as it was, you know, winning the Ultimate Fighter and winning 3 straight fights to close out his career, including one, you know, within the last year or so. But yeah, I mean, he was very close to his parents and his brother, and oh man, it's just you know, another just harsh reminder that we're all just, you know, here for a visit, you know.
Yep. Yeah, it's listen, I want to send my condolences, my best wishes to his family and loved ones. And Elias, may you please rest in peace, my friend. Let's just put it that way, okay? Tragic loss. All right, we do have to move on. So I hate having stories like that and then cutting away so quickly. Before we get into the UFC talk, I want to go over some sports talk. It's coming over the air now that Tom Brady again is hinting at retirement. Just came over on CNN. His wife Giselle has concerns about him playing. We've heard about those concerns. I don't know if this means that he may retire during the season, but it looks like there's possibility. You know, John, you're a married man. Okay, you're in Tom Brady's shoes. You're the GOAT. You're coming back. You have a hell of a game. I mean, he was still throwing the long ball like nobody could throw the other day. He still has like the 4th or 5th quickest release in the NFL. But you have family issues as a loving father or husband to your kids. How much would your wife's decision make in pushing you out?
You know, it's a tricky question, and I'll answer it as honestly as possible. And I think I can speak to it because I'm away 100 nights a year. Now, I'm not Tom Brady, right? So I understand when you have a high pressure job and have to perform to whatever degree, you have to prioritize that. And, you know, sometimes my kids pay the price for that. They don't pay the price quite like Tom Brady's kids do, though, right? And Tom Brady obviously has been doing this for a very long time, and he's 45 years of age. Herein lies the rub. He's still like the best player in the NFL, right? And he was expectant that he could play till 45 because he's preserved his body, but I don't think he expected that he'd still be the best player at 45. So what's a man to do, you know? And I think eventually history will look back fondly on this decision, and so will Giselle, that he did continue to play. I would be stunned if he left mid-season. You know, that's a decommitment to his teammates and not at all Tom Brady. Like, you're breaking news to me, you know. Yeah, I think this will probably be the last year because of the marital pressure, and I understand, like, eventually it's good to walk away and be in one piece. But make no mistake about it, you know, when we get to a few games this weekend, even though the Bucs haven't been historically great against New Orleans, Tom looks great, man. He looks as great as effing ever. And I congratulate him on that, man. You know, he might win a Super Bowl this year if he sticks around.
Well, you know, I mean, look how he and Julio Jones were connecting. Oh my God. Julio's worth every dollar they're paying him. Tom's worth every dollar they're paying him. It was really, it was very interesting this weekend watching the play. So the Bucs came on top. The Rams looked like a high school football team against the amazing Buffalo Bills, who just looked crazy. The Rams looked good in the first half a bit, but man, did they fall apart. My Raiders, you know, of course I say my Eagles. Let me say my Eagles. My Eagles skimmed by Detroit, which I really enjoyed watching HBO Hard Knocks on Detroit. I love the coach. He's old school, the way I like it. That was a heck of a game. And then the Raiders, you know, Carr throwing 3 interceptions where they should have won the game. Of course, you should win the game unless you throw 3 interceptions. But they're going to come back in this weekend. I think that they're playing Denver, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it's Arizona.
Or Arizona, pardon me, Arizona. And I will be, I shouldn't say it, but hey, what the heck?
I mean, this guy, man, you know, this guy's going to get a ring if they win a Super Bowl, right? I mean, you might as well know who they're playing in week 2. I love you.
Yeah, I know. I'll get it down, but we're all good. I'll be going there on Sunday to set it off. They may be part of the team. Very excited about that. The Buccaneers are going to face the Saints this weekend. John, from a betting standpoint, I don't even like to give my picks until about the 3rd week when I really kind of get in the groove a little bit. Although I will say that I had an 80% winning streak this weekend.
Good.
I actually bet a 13-team parlay for $150 based on my godson Henry's picks, who's really good because I agreed with him. Only missed 2 games. It was going to pay $108,000. I was going to hand Henry 25 grand.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did it? Wow. Did it come down to a couple games?
It came down to 2 games. 2 games. Eagles being one of them. Yep, that was it.
Oh, you had the Eagles.
I need to know, Bruce, if it were the Eagles and the Raiders playing each other in the Super Bowl. I know you get a ring if one team wins. Would you be pulling for the Eagles still in your heart of hearts?
You know, as the saying goes, $1 million and a Super Bowl ring cut a lot of family ties.
Right.
I have to be rooting for the Raiders on that one. How would I not want to get a Super Bowl ring? Oh my God. Can you imagine that, John?
Tricky.
I can't even fathom it.
Yeah. I mean, it's tricky, right? I can't relate to being sort of intimately involved with a team like that, but I probably would have gone the other way. You know, I guess I'm disappointed that you wouldn't be rooting for the Birds. And, you know, but I guess you're asking him, his Philadelphia Eagles did win a Super Bowl fairly recently.
That's true.
The Raiders did not. So,
hey, I'm very happy they made the Super Bowl, but I'm going to say it again. A Super Bowl ring cuts a lot of family ties. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Call me a Judas, call me whatever you want, but it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. So, John, did you enjoy watching football this weekend? Any standouts? I think Russell Wilson, he couldn't, Seattle looked great. Russell Wilson could not make it happen in the red zone. 2 fumbles, missed field goal, maybe misjudgment, not kicking a field goal at one point, whatever, but very tough game, very fun game to watch.
I don't know if TJ watches the NFL on a weekly basis, but it is so crazy how much stuff happens in this league on a weekly basis in terms of the betting and the totals and everything else. I was actually watching a lot of it on the airplane. I fell asleep for an hour and I woke up and then I realized my Patriots are playing the Dolphins. I'm flying to Miami. And of course, you see some of these guys in first class. They have the biggest iPads you've ever seen in your life. They have NFL Sunday Ticket. So I opened my eyes and I got two big screens in the opposing row with Patriots Dolphins. So I was able to watch that game on the way back. And I did watch Russell Wilson and the Broncos. I will say the NFL schedule, folks, did not do Russell Wilson any favors. You know, he leaves Seattle after his entire career, goes to Denver. It's like, all right, week one, Monday night, back home in Seattle. Like, can we breathe a little bit? So totally. I think that was a little bit of a tricky spot for them. But I do like Seattle. You know, it's a big number for them at San Francisco in week two. Historically, they've been very good in that series. So, yeah, I mean, Geno Smith, man, crazier things have happened, but he looked pretty good under center.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And Zach Prescott's going to be out for several weeks. He got a thumb injury, so he's again injured. So he's not cut, excuse me, but he won't be playing. Also, the Packers offense did not look good at all.
Well, I mean, they are missing the guy, Alan Lazard, who they expect to be the number one wide receiver. So I think they'll be better in week two and they'll be home for Chicago. And, you know, I'll tell you, as a fantasy football player, Aaron Rodgers had his worst week by far in week one last year. And went on to be really, really great and win his second straight MVP. So I'm not too worried about the Packers, but it's hard not to overreact after a week. You know, they have two outstanding running backs, though, and a very, very good head coach. So I'm not too worried about the Packers.
Yeah, no, and again, it's game one. It's week one. So boom. This is interesting. This I'm reading about Young Ho. You know this Falcons kicker, Young Ho Koo?
Yeah.
He overcame a language barrier and being cut. Now he's thriving in the NFL. He signed like a $24 million contract. It's amazing what these kickers. I love it. Just like I love fighters in our sport, you know, making $1 million a fight or whatever. But 24 million over 5 years. I wasn't aware kickers get paid that much money, but when you think about it, they're worth every darn penny.
Yeah, if they're consistent. If they're consistent. Otherwise, they're just scapegoats, and they might deservedly need to make more money than they are.
Well, that's about as big a kicker contract as there is in terms of you know, totality and average annual value. I don't know how much of that is guaranteed, but he's young and he's good. And there are a lot of bad kickers, man. A lot of bad kickers. It's interesting too. If you watch the league enough, you know, some of these guys, their makes, you know, just go in or doink off the crossbar, whereas some of these guys split the goddamn uprights every time the ball touches their foot, you know? So I think that's important to watch as well. When you're betting these games. But I like the board in week two a lot better than week one. You know, week one is absolutely brutal trying to center on 5 games as I do in the super contests, you know, where we're charged with picking 5 games against the spread in week one. I'm looking at the board, Buff. It's like, I got no idea, man. I got no idea.
I'm looking at it right now too. And I usually like to pick 3 games as my prime games, you know, without getting too emotional about who I'm picking on. And I'm looking at it based on what happened last week. Definitely going to ride Brady. I'm not going to bet against Brady against the Saints for sure. I'm going to definitely go with the Bucks. I'm looking at this here, the Seahawks and the 49ers. I thought the Seahawks looked really good. I'm going to take them even going into the 49ers territory. I'm going to go with the Seahawks. And then Bills and the Titans, I'm going to not go against the Bills at home. I'm sure the spread's going to be sick. But
well, I have it for you. So the Monday night games are interesting. So, and a lot of these lines have moved around, right? So Buffalo opened -9.5 home to Tennessee. There are 2 Monday night football games. Mm-hmm. Buffalo's going to score 30 points. So how many is Tennessee going to score? You know, Buffalo might score 45 points, right?
I'll take Buffalo in that game.
So you know, it was 9.5. It's now 10. I would still lay it. You know, I like the Eagles home on Monday night to the Minnesota Vikings. It opened -1.5. It's now 2.5. I'd probably grab it before it goes to 3, you know, if you do like that side. Follow or fade, of course, is always the advice. Tampa Bay is -2.5 at New Orleans. They were 3, now 2.5. So getting a better number there. I like the Giants to keep it going. -2, short price at home against Carolina. So, you know, I like the board a lot better now, having seen these teams compete a little bit, you know, in week one.
What's the spread on the Broncos and the Texans?
That is a big number, 10. Houston +10 at Denver. Short week for the Broncos coming back home. Sounds like you want to ride Davis Mills and the Texans, huh?
Yeah, I would buy that to 10.5. And I would also buy the Bills down to 9.5. I'm very big on the buying down or buying up at 3, 7, 10, and 14. It's won me more games than I can remember. And I'm definitely going with the Birds. Definitely going with the Eagles against the Vikings. Although the Vikings look good in their win, but going to go with that. So I'll ride with that. Thanks, John. I'm gonna hit the pick board here after the show. I'm putting this away.
It's an exciting time to be a Vikings fan and an Eagles fan. And for the
ask-
sake of this show, you got a Minnesota guy producing it, and you know, a Philly guy. Actually, you know what? You don't have a Philly guy anymore, TJ. We learned on this very episode that we no longer have a Philly guy. So
It's true.
Judas Buffer right here, man. Right here.
With the jewelry than you know, downtown Philadelphia. So.
And while I'm a Minnesota guy, I'm not a Vikings guy unless it's the second half of the NFC Championship game and they're up by at least 2 scores.
Hey, let me tell you something. Speaking of this weekend with the Raiders, I'm flying into Vegas. I'm going to announce the Raider game, as we know. I have to leave before halftime because I'm going over to the ADCC Submission Wrestling Championships to announce the finals. I got to work with Lene Hart. Lene and Hart and I are going to work together.
I understand. Lene Hart is awesome. That is amazing. But it's like if I'm the Raiders and I'm handing out Super Bowl rings, you know, I'd like the guy to not be leaving at halftime.
I already got the okay. What can I do? And again, a certain amount of money cuts a lot of family ties, even with the Raiders.
Unbelievable. He got it cleared. He already got it cleared, folks. Gets to leave at halftime, still gets a Super Bowl ring. Now, I don't know, man. Now I'm rooting against the Raiders, man.
And they're driving me. It's all good. I did my job. Oh, God, I want to tell you. So, okay, I can't tell you, but I'm opening up with one of the legends of rock and roll who's going to play the national anthem on the guitar.
Why can't you say it right now and then TJ will bleep it out in post? Wow. Yeah. How about that? One of my favorites. Just popping veins out of your neck. That's great.
Oh, I love it. I'll be going off like crazy, and hopefully we're in the suite together. It'd just be such an honor to meet him. I actually saw him years ago, back when I was in my 20s, walking through one of the famous rock hotels in Hollywood. And the man is super cool, super smooth. So that's going to be exciting. Anyway, the ADCC, John, they sold 11,000 tickets.
It's great. All
Submission wrestling
and Kenny Florian, you know.
I think they're keeping me a secret, but anyway, that's all good to show. Okay, listen. 2 other little news stories, and I want to get into some UFC talk. Hopefully these Oregon wildfires are going to calm down. The nature is getting biblical on what's happening around this world, John. It's getting crazy. If this glacier falls they're talking about Amsterdam being underwater. All right. We have cities in Arizona that don't even have clean water. Right. Things are happening. It's crazy, John.
The water situation all over the country in a lot of places is
unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's crazy. All right, let's get into some UFC talk. I don't know what else to say. It's just, I have electricity going out here in my area. I'm going to buy a generator for my mom's house and my house because, you know, you never know what's going to happen. Could be without electricity for 3-4 days.
I think you should do that right after you place your football bets. For
Okay, I will do that. No problem. And then the last thing I want to talk about before we get on the UFC talk, Cobra Kai back on Netflix. I don't know if you ever watched it.
Never seen it.
So good.
TJ
it's
and
so hokey. It's so hokey, but it's so good.
I hear great things. It's just, I don't know. I haven't even seen the Karate Kid.
Working and watching kids, you know.
It's true.
When people go pop culture on me, right? The only thing that gives me anxiety on a UFC telecast is when we have celeb shots and they tell me who celebrities are, you know.
I get nervous for you, John.
If you're watching this, though, I know who all of you are. I'm just messing around.
I get nervous. I'm good with sports stars, but like when you start telling me influencers, I'm just like, I don't.
I went to a boxing event, and all respect to the influencers, and like these guys would walk in and the 20,000 people in attendance go out of their friggin' minds, right? I wouldn't know them if I stepped on them. But it's just the power of being an influencer, the power of TikTok, the power of Instagram. It's crazy.
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know who Logan Paul was until Buffer introduced me to him. And I didn't know who Jake Paul was until he knocked out Tyron Woodley. So
let's touch on that one, Johnny. Jake Paul's fighting Anderson Silva in boxing.
Yeah, I mean, let's see them both get to October 29th, but
right.
I'll buy it. I'll buy it.
I want to see it.
I don't even know that I'm inclined to bet on it because candidly, I at this point could probably see it going going both ways. I'm certainly,
absolutely.
I guess, hopeful for Anderson as an MMA guy. And I certainly like his chances a hell of
I
a
do.
lot more than the other people that we've sent in there.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and I
Please,
say
let's
that,
not
of
even
course,
talk
with
about
respect to T Wood, but the Askren fight, Jake Paul versus Ben Askren, one of the all-time great betting opportunities in sports betting history, the Jake Paul side,
totally.
I mean, what are we doing? How about Askren and Jake Paul in a wrestling setting? Would you like to bet on Ben? I mean, what are we doing here?
Well,
So,
it'd be more competitive because, Paul's a
yeah.
wrestler. So
Yeah, I'm excited to see
It
what
would be
Anderson
more
can do.
competitive, Buffer. It would be a slaughter.
No, a
Slaughter.
slaughter. Yes,
Slaughter.
100%. That's what I'm saying.
Well, okay. Now the other thing now is like Nate Diaz when he was in the octagon after his fight on Saturday night, saying that he wants to show other people in sports how to do it, blah, 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 was kind of like ambiguous, but I think we understood what it meant. But there's heavy talk about him based on how the Paul fight goes, where he would box Jake Paul. Okay.
I don't even know what to think of that, guys. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I love the Diaz brothers, in many ways, inside, outside of the octagon. They're just great. Must see TV.
Ditto.
But
Ditto.
their boxing style, like I don't know what that looks like outside of an MMA context. Like I don't know if it works.
It's punches and bunches, but it's not boxing,
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's how you have to try to beat someone like Jake Paul. You have to box him, correct?
Yes, of course.
Well, I mean, no. There are some people that say like, oh, you want to fight him, oh, you want to box him. You got to use angles. You got to bring the whole, weaponry, the whole arsenal of a boxing game. And I don't know if Nate has that.
Well, and Jake's also bigger than Nate.
Bigger.
I mean, that's why the Anderson fight is intriguing because of the weight that it seems like to really be somebody that is his size.
Yeah.
And obviously Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley are career welterweights, and Anderson's never fought at 70. So, yeah, I mean, I think, Dean Thomas came on our podcast and predicted that Nate Diaz was going to fill in for Anderson Silva on October 29th.
What?
And that was yesterday. So
that's conspiracy theory.
You ready for me to be kind of a stickler? I believe Anderson fought at 165 pounds in shootout.
There you go. Okay. I was sort of saying, yeah, I should have clarified.
Sorry.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I don't think that anything like that would happen that quickly for Nate. But I also don't know the dollars and cents. I don't know what that payday for Jake Paul or for Nate Diaz looks like relative to what he made last weekend. So,
well, it was published the fact that he made $1 million, they publish a salary as they do, made $1 million. I'm sure he had a back end on pay-per-view. I don't know how the show sold on pay-per-view. Usually that isn't even worth talking about unless it's $500,000 or more buys to really add up to something. But
hey,
I'm sure
can I just say this, guys, real quick? Because I mean, this isn't the company line that you necessarily want to say, but for everything that happened wrong last week at UFC 279, did we not get a better card?
I told Dana when Dana came in, I said, Dana, I'll be honest with you, the card is better with what happened. But let's explain to the audience, if you're not familiar with whatever, basically a co-main event fighter went up to the main event. A main event fighter went down to the co-main event due to Hamzat weighing 7.5 pounds over, and the doctor, saying don't even try to cut the weight. And you can elaborate on that, John. Also, too, we had 3 catchweight fights. We've never had 3 catchweight fights in one night. Cards are changing. John, I can just see him just slapping his head left and right, having to do all the
John just had to be
changes.
Writing intros over and over again, I would imagine.
Listen, I had to redo my cards at the last minute, and I'm thinking to myself, this is a pain in the ass, but this is nothing compared to what Anik's going through right now, in prep.
It was a wild Friday. There's no doubt. I mean, we've had a lot of crazy fight weeks, UFC 200, 209, 223, but nothing like this. And I don't know that anything will come close to this in the future. And certainly the promotion in hindsight looks really smart for adding those 2 fights 3 weeks back. And but again, I know the UFC cuts my paycheck, but they're the only combat sports promotion in the world that pivots that quickly. And a lot of it has to do with experience. Yeah. They're so conditioned to thriving under these weird circumstances, losing main events. And I don't know, I think they position themselves to really sort of rise above the circumstances. And there was one point that all 6 athletes had said no, and they got all 6 on board. So yeah, I think it probably was a bigger pay-per-view. And yes, I mean, at least from a betting perspective, TJ, to be sure, the main event was more competitive, and certainly it played out that way, at least projectively, right, in terms of what we would project with Nate Diaz and Hamzat Chimaev.
Sure.
Yeah. Dude, but I mean, I don't know what the lead is, I think you should lead the podcast with Khamzat Chimaev. He's the most dominant force in the game. I know he missed weight, but let's
He
see him at
is.
85. Let's see him at 85, man. That I've never seen anything like that dude in my life.
I said this that night, but it's been said by other people, I think, like Rogan. He is the James Bond villain of the UFC. He really is.
I mean, he's almost too ferocious to be James Bond, though. I mean, that's
No,
too
not James
stupid.
Bond, the villain
Oh, the
from a
villain.
James Bond movie. He's
There
the
you go.
Spectre. Yeah.
Well,
that
yeah,
guy.
I mean, it's interesting how quickly he became like public enemy number one.
Yeah.
Because but the thing is I think the performance is going to resonate more than this weight miss is going to have like big after effects. So I don't know. I just have said repeatedly in terms of the eye test and the muscle mass, he works hard. So, at least what he's eating, at least right now, isn't having the biggest effect. I just didn't think he could make 70 consistently to defend the belt and make 70 repeatedly, not 71. I just never saw him as this career-long welterweight. You get older, you get bigger, you fill out a little bit more. So I'm glad he's going to middleweight for his next fight later this year. And, too bad it can't be against Robert Whittaker.
Oh my God, I would love that. But in his own words, he loves to train, he loves to eat. So that does not constitute.
Well, and if he wants to live the lifestyle 24/7, 365 of a welterweight and completely change his life in terms of the nutrition, so be it. But I would argue that's no way to live, right? Especially with what happened to Elias Theodorou.
Hey, can we just look at Khamzat and the way that he went out in his post-fight interview compared to Chris Barnett in the way that he went out in his post-fight interview? Because I think you had the biggest baby face turn in creating a star in Chris Barnett and almost
Chris.
the biggest heel turn with Khamzat.
No question. And let me ask you guys a question. No question. Let me ask you a question. When Khamzat's fight started with Kevin came out to give him the old whatever. Immediately Khamzat shoots and takes him down. Okay. It's legal. It's a little, he could have tapped, whatever. I mean, maybe we would have had a striking war like with, his previous fight where he showed that he could be beat, getting hit 118 times in the, compared to one time over the last 4 previous fights or whatever it was. But had that hand tap not started, John, would that fight have gone a different route?
No. And you got to be ready to fight. I don't even.
Yeah, you got to be ready to fight. You're absolutely correct.
And Kevin, poor Kevin Holland, right? Who, obviously, if you're going to get the opportunity in a UFC career to fight someone like Khamzat Chimaev, don't you think you'd like to have a little of time to prepare for that guy?
Hell yeah.
I think
I
so.
feel for Kevin Holland. He comes over to the broadcast table and he's like, I'm sorry. And it's like, he's apologizing relative to the expectations for that fight and the expectations placed upon him by the fight game, but it's sad, and I don't know, man. For Khamzat to do that to Kevin, no matter what happened at the beginning of the fight, I think it seems like that was probably an eventuality.
Yeah.
I really think, and Aljamain Sterling said this, and I would echo it, that you need someone who can wrestle, who can grapple, who can deal with the strength. And eventually that guy will emerge and give him a hell of a fight. And Gilbert Burns certainly did that. And Gilbert has his own sort of unique danger factor, I think, on the ground and in the jiu-jitsu world. But
right.
Khamzat is a monster. And hopefully he meets your guy, Paulo Costa. I mean, I think that's the fight, right? Paulo Costa and Khamzat Chimaev at 185 pounds. Main event for December, throw it on pay-per-view. And we'll all fucking watch it.
Hey man, that secret juice could really bring him out forward, I know what's in that secret juice, but I'm not going to say it. He has to say it first. He told me what's in it.
I'm sure it's nothing spectacular. So
it's good nutritional stuff. And
yes,
it's good cleansing drink,
Yeah.
Get the, I think we all know that. So let's go over a few of the fights. Hakeem
for that
Dawood,
juice to work for me, it'd have to be a lot dirtier. I'm just saying. Just saying.
Well, actually, I want to go back to Chris Barnett. How entertaining can you be? How
he's great.
Can you be? He's just great. He's just such a positive guy.
I mean, can either of you guys recall an athlete walking out to such fanfare compared to what they walked into? Like that's the biggest applause and send off I think we've ever seen in UFC history.
Yeah. No, he had it holding the 2 beers in his hand. He's got the Tui Tuivasa side. He's got the Roy Nelson side. He's got all the sides. He's making it all work. And he's so damn likable.
He's the total package. The
Yeah.
voice is part of it, the way he sounds on a microphone, the way he knows how to project and sort of own a crowd.
Yep.
It's a unique skill. And he certainly knows how to light up an audience. I mean, his performances speak for themselves. He obviously has the heart to stay in these fights, which can result in, spectacular type fights. And I can't tell you how many times in our fighter meetings we hear an athlete say, I want a war. I want to be in a war. I want to be in a memorable fight. And this was not necessarily that, with respect. I mean, Jake Collier gassed, right? I don't even know how many of these shots actually landed for Chris Barnett in this historically great rally, with all due respect. But yeah,
Right.
I mean, celebration, the post-fight interview, the total package. He weighed in heavier than any heavyweight in UFC history, so he can make claim to that record as well. And good for Beast Boy. Cash those checks.
I'm curious what the live line was at one point. I mean, he was, flattened out, face down, looked like his night was over.
Do they take live line? Are there live line bets on fights? I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really? Well, I don't bet fights as a rule, but I mean, really, wow.
We show the live odds on the UFC telecast a lot.
I missed that. I didn't know that.
It's one of my favorite little nuggets about fights. Judging that tone and temperament of the fans.
The reason I don't verbally acknowledge it when you see it graphically, every now and again I will, is because if I'm not looking at a sportsbook line that's like playable in that moment, it doesn't feel like it's the live odd for me. I don't buy it unless I can look at the South Florida bookie that I play with and see it in his book. And then I'd be like, well, right now you can get minus 135, but throwing that out there verbally, it's like, I gotta see it to believe it.
I'm with you on all that. And going over, this is the first time I've not had to stop E1 Kudalabra from coming over to the red corner. He stayed stationary in his corner, but Johnny Walker, man, he took him out pretty easily.
They don't hire security. They charge you. That's part of your job.
How many times? No, they have security. They have commission. But how many times do you see me to be the first one to react when something is going to go a little awry? It's just, I've always been the one to walk into the fight, but it's just my nature. But I don't mind.
For looking for a fight.
That's it. Right.
We're looking for a fight.
Ask Frank Trigg.
No comment. Okay, you got it. So Johnny Walker, what is this scuttlebutt I hear that after his fight he was asked to leave, that he couldn't come out and watch the fight? Can you lay down some content on what that was all about?
I know what you're talking about. I saw John Kavanaugh's tweet that said they were sort of unceremoniously ushered out, I guess. But no, I got nothing for you, unfortunately.
Yeah, I believe that's protocol still, right? Like I think the athletes all have to leave after their fights.
I've seen fighters come out before and watch the fights.
Well, no, yeah, I think some maybe try to get ahead of it to make sure they have a seat afterwards. I really don't know, but certainly for a while, especially in the COVID climate, you fight, you leave,
Right.
So
yeah, that's true. Or an Apex environment. Arena Aldana, I really like watching her fight. She's a tough woman. Not that Macy Shoshone is not, because she fought at tough as nails too.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we've ever seen an up kick to the body end a fight ever.
First up kick to the body in UFC history.
Definitely first up liver kick.
Yeah.
First up kick to the liver. I mean, I've been taken out by that. Your body completely immobilizes. You are just done.
Yeah.
Right.
No, if you're watching at home and you have a toddler or a 5-year-old, have them kick you there as hard as they can and see how it goes,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Arena Aldana, it's just amazing to watch someone's entire UFC body of work and see all the work that she's put into her game, whether competing at jiu-jitsu tournaments or working on the wrestling maintenance at home when nobody's paying attention, to go with all of her boxing skills. She fought for a jungle fight title in Belém, Brazil in her 4th pro fight in 2013.
Wow.
So now you look at her and she's ready, she's conditioned, she's hardened. So, it's interesting with bantamweight right now. I mean, I certainly think you got to do Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena a 3rd time.
Absolutely.
Ketlin Vieira, is right there. And so is Arena Aldana, who has a head-to-head win over Ketlin. So the women's bantamweight division has probably never been better than it is right now.
Oh, it's so deep. So deep.
It's, and I say that with respect to obviously some of the pioneers, but Ketlin's a monster right now, and Aldana is underrated. Aldana responds to adversity so well. I mean, I know the Holly Holm main event wasn't good, and there were some COVID circumstances there, But Aldana's really good, and she's not afraid of the spotlights in the least effing bit. So yeah, I'm very excited for her and the bonus and everything else.
I am too. Two more fights, Rodriguez and Jing Liang. I didn't enjoy making that announcement.
Yeah, I saw something like I think there was like 25 media scores on MMAdecisions.com, and like 19 or 20 of them sided with Lee. So yeah, tough
Nothing
fight
against Daniel. Daniel's a hell of a fighter. I have nothing. I mean, I praise. But sometimes I get these decisions, and John even tells me that I should be doing this, at the desk because whatever. And I understand that. That's one of those ones I was walking in. So I personally didn't agree with it. John, do you agree with it?
No, I thought the Leech won the fight. I thought you could argue that Li Jingliang won all 3 rounds, and Dana White went right over to our VP of Regulatory Affairs, Mark Ratner, and sort of expressed his disappointment immediately.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't know if he used the verb rob. I think maybe he even did. No, I don't think he did. But Dana certainly thought the Leech won. And it's tricky too, because if I'm not mistaken, you go to UFC.com and D-Rod, competing at a catch weight of 180 pounds, took the Leech's ranking in the welterweight top 15, which to me is absolutely insane. Now, sometimes in MMA, when you win a fight, you get criticized, and when you lose a fight, you're the talk of the town and you get all this praise. And that's kind of the way it goes, right? Paul Felder can certainly speak to this. When he beat Edson Barboza in the rematch, you're eating your cheeseburger and you open your phone and everybody's like, you lost that fight, fuck off.
Right.
And then reciprocally, when he lost the first fight to Edson Barboza, a lot of people thought he won. They're like, dude, you got hosed, man, and you feel all great and you lost the fight, right? So I feel for D-Rod, but it's a green stripe on his Wikipedia page, and they both are going to get a big fight. I don't think either one loses too much. They both got a bigger payday, hopefully, if they have good agents, and we move forward.
Like I said, and I agree. And everybody got obviously some back end bonuses or back in the locker room with all these changes that took place. But kudos to Jing Liang, kudos to Daniel. Kudos to all the fighters putting their blood, sweat, and tears in the octagon floor, last night, much less every night. So let's talk about Nate Diaz and let's talk about Tony Ferguson. Okay, the way this turned around, I think it was a better fight for both. Nate, aside from his stop and relax moments during the fight, which is so typical Diaz, whether it's him or Nick, whatever. But a very entertaining fight. We all saw what happened. His post speech. Okay, what do you predict? All right. I mean, they're talking Mike Perry and him and bare knuckle, which hands out contracts. But to me, I obviously feel that he should fight Conor for a trilogy. That would be a huge, huge fight. I think if he goes and fights Jake Paul, he'll make probably 10, 20 million. That'll be $1 million+ pay-per-view thing. So the world is kind of really Nate's oyster at this moment, as it hasn't been before, because Dana White's openly expressed, he loves and likes Nate. Nate, want to have him come back. Go ahead, spread your wings, do what you're going to do, but come back.
He'll
be
back,
John. He'll be back, but what do you think, John?
I believe so. I think he masterfully handled that post-fight setting, not only sort of leaving the door ajar, but laying a foundation for an actual return and sort of putting over the promotion and just putting his relationship with the UFC in the perfect context. Like, it has been love-hate, but it's leaning more love than hate. It's very rare for a superstar to gain free agency like this in combat sports. So I hope he can at least realize some sort of payday. I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to some of that stuff as to how big a Jake Paul payday would be versus a Mike Perry payday and all of that noise. But I hope Nate can, continue to have the best cannabis that money can buy and continue to get these big paydays and eventually be back to the UFC, where obviously a big fight or 2 or 3 await. The only thing I will say is that, eventually time does catch up with every man, and some of these guys do end up like Tony Ferguson. I'll tell you guys, like, when he fought Michael Chandler, he didn't look old to me, right? But fighting at welterweight against Nate Diaz, he looked a little bit old to me. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't think his performance had any merit. Like, I thought it had merit. I thought he almost won on leg kicks pretty impressively. But and I'm not in the business of retiring fighters, but eventually fighters get old. And, if you think about 2 or 3 years passing, all of a sudden Nate fights Conor in a trilogy at 41, 42, a little bit of a different thing.
Agreed on all counts. You said it perfectly. The bottom line is we all love Nate Diaz, and what Nate wants, Nate will get. Nate has made a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah.
and good for him.
Yeah.
And more in his future. Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
And I think
love
everybody who's listening, you should get a 209 tattoo as an
it. Show us
just
that
for the
tattoo. Come on,
brothers.
Johnny, show us that tattoo.
Oh,
Let me
my
see.
tattoo?
Yeah, show
Well, we're just talking about other people getting 209 tattoos. I
Yeah.
think people should do it for the brothers. You know, it's a great MMA tattoo to get.
There it
you
is.
know? I mean, I have mine. Can you see it? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
we
there.
got it.
All
It's
right.
there.
Yeah,
There.
I mean, come on. You know, like how many pictures do you think I take with the fucking 209 tattoo in Vegas this weekend compared to how many people want a picture with my face? What do you
If-
think? The discrepancy, you know?
If
It
that's
was
not
probably
proof,
like 7-6, you know?
if that's not proof that you're a man of your word, I don't know what is. Seriously.
But I mean, who would make a tattoo bet and not honor it? Like, I mean, that, and there's so much that goes into it, right? Like, it wasn't a bet against Nate Diaz, right? You know, the quickest way to not get an interview with me about the tattoo bet is to tell me that I lost that bet. This is a win, you know? I mean, and this continues to, you know, I mean, you don't feel like I'm winning this weekend. You got a 209 tattoo, you know? So yeah. But I do think your listenership should go get 209 tattoos and show them to us on social media.
That you heard it, folks. It's the words of Jon Anik. And for those of you tattooing my face on your body,
Oh,
unbelievable.
that's why I might do that. I might get
Oh,
your face.
John, come on. Really?
Well,
I mean, I would be honored, but
not on my neck, not on my neck.
No.
Maybe I'll just get a goat emoji with a couple of BBs on it. How about that? Huh?
Whatever you want to do, just don't put it on your butt cheek. Okay. That's all good.
I will not. I will not.
All right. Thank you for that, John. Maybe you get one of you. I'll get one of me. I've been contemplating what my first, if I ever get one, tattoo would be, but all good. All good. And thank you for everybody out there that wants it. I got to tell you something. I did a signing at Puncher's Chance in Dallas, and one of the people that came, the girl that worked with me was the model was a huge UFC fan. She's married, right? She had me sign a white card, you know, Bruce Buffer Voto. She sent me a picture on Monday. She was at the tattoo artist having my name and Voto tattooed on her shoulder blade area, right?
I love it.
I don't mean to be rude, but when her husband's like giving her a hug from behind or something, he's looking at my name. I don't get that.
Giving her a hug from behind.
I'm being polite, John. Don't even go there.
Mhm. Thinking the same thing.
Come
Andy.
on. Hey, Rupert, listen to The Godfather today. I mean, this guy, man.
Speaking of The Godfather, I just watched it for the umpteenth time. Still one of the greatest movies ever made. And I'm going to recommend, if you have Paramount Plus, get the offer with Miles Teller about the making of The Godfather. One of the best TV series I've ever watched, ever. Aside from Cobra Kai. Just kidding.
I hear Cobra Kai is great. I just, you know, I haven't.
But you know what? Don't take the fight scene seriously. Everything else, just look at it for what it is and just enjoy it. You know, it's all good. Johnny, time to say goodbye, and so you can get back with your beautiful kids, your beautiful wife, and what are you doing today? You're going to go out and play, or you got work, or what?
So I went and bought a new driver because I smashed my driver on my golf bag after a bad drive, and it was.
Oh, I thought you were talking about your car. Jeez. Okay,
no,
your golf
my
club. Okay.
golf driver. My one wood, I guess some might call it old school, but yeah, we smashed the driver, and I keep my cell phone in my golf bag, and so little did I know, 2 hours later, I went to get my cell phone, and that was smashed in half.
Oh.
So we have a new cell phone now, and I bought a new driver today. We're working on our golf game. I'm practicing. I'm trying to get better so that if I, you know, end up having to play in some of these tournaments, I don't kill somebody in the gallery. So
can I come play with you one time, even though I'm, you know, probably going to be 1 or 2 over par? Can I play a course with you one day?
What, you saying you can shoot 74? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm talking about an occasional hole 1, 2 over par. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Don't look for greatness out of me.
I'm not good. Yes, you open invitation. Let's get TJ out there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
9
great
holes.
with a sand wedge.
Yeah.
Good.
After
Yeah,
9
good.
holes, though, I'm ready for the bar. Okay. I'm not an 18-hole guy. 9 holes.
I'm a great.
Sometimes bails after like 15 holes.
Okay.
I'm great with a sand wedge and a sandwich.
There you go. Honesty is the sweetness of life. John, let us know what's up. Whatever you want to do, let's sign off. Say goodbye. Have a great week.
Well, I'm doing a new podcast on the NFL with my twin brother called Anik Squared. So
Awesome.
I'd encourage you to check that out wherever you get your podcasts. It's on YouTube and all that noise. And we speak pretty hostilely to each other. And I think that's part of the energy of the show, right? Like I would address him in a public forum in a way that I would never undress another man, you know, like basically he was hosting the show, TJ. And I'm basically saying like, don't let the pigeon drive the bus, like the book, Mo Willems, right? Like, Not necessarily calling my twin brother a pigeon, but here's what you get when you let the fucking pigeon drive the bus. So Anik Squared on the Hammer Betting Network, and obviously the Anik and Florian podcast is out there every week. A long time TJ DeSantis production, still going strong. So
Awesome. TJ?
What do we got going on? Extra rounds. Go watch on UFC Fight Pass. I think we're off this week. No, we got a post show coming up on Saturday. So tune in for that.
Is Ray Longo on?
I think so. I haven't talked to Ray, but I mean, he's basically steering that ship. We stole him from the Anik and Florian podcast.
You just line that dude's pocket anytime he doesn't have to hit mitts for it,
Hey, wasn't that dinner we had with Ray Longo fun in New York?
Yeah, it was great. I think at this point it's becoming overrated because you guys hold it in such high regard. No, it was great. No, it was honestly one of the more memorable dinners I've had in a long time. The company, the food, the service, which is big, obviously, but that was some outstanding Italian food. I think probably 5,500 calories for me that night.
Oh, I know, definitely, no question.
Seriously, like almost 6,000 calories, just me, 150 pounds.
That sounds amazing.
It was amazing. It was a lot of fun. Jon, thanks as always for coming on the show, my brother. It's always a pleasure. NFL's happening. We'll have you on again. I'd love to be on your show. I'd love to be on your NFL show with your brother. I tell you guys, watch this show with Jon and his brother, and tell me if you can tell the difference minus the hair. That's all I could say. The voice, the mannerisms, identical twins beyond belief. Amazing.
It is really weird, and thank you. I'll say, and I know we got to get out of here, but like when he would come on our podcast and talk MMA, and maybe I would be listening to it, I could always tell it was him. Now with this podcast, I honestly, if I'm in another room and I don't see it, I can't tell if I'm the one talking or not.
Really?
That's weird.
It's that close. I mean, you being the brother and you're saying that's
well, my voice is a little bit damaged and lower. But generally speaking, if I'm not catching everything in context and I hear the voice, I don't know if it's me or him. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess you better watch it and not listen to it.
It's just so unique. You got to watch it just to see this one bit, and you'll be hooked after that. Because quite frankly, you have a great podcast with Kenny. You're so good at what you do, but your brother and your knowledge of football and everything. If you're a football fan, please check out. Give it the name of the podcast again, please.
Anik Squared. I mean, sort of a play on, sharp bettors versus square bettors, and the fact that there's two of us, it kind of works,
whatever mathematics you want to throw at it.
Make no mistake about it. He's very annoying. You'll see. Go check out episode 2. It's up right now.
All good. All right, Johnny, listen, love you, brother. Have a great week. When am I going to see you again?
I guess I will see you October 1st in Las Vegas. Mackenzie Dern, Yan Xiaonan.
And you know what Sunday is?
Raiders football.
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully they're not playing the Eagles. You put on all your Raiders gear.
I just want to know if there's somebody named Jon Anik that wants to go to the game. That's all.
I would love to go to the game. I'm going to rebook my flight. Thank you.
You let me know what's up and let me go to work on it. Even if my other friend comes with me, we'll all have a great time together. I'll make it happen.
Thank you, buddy. TJ, keep this guy in line for me.
I'm trying.
All right, wait, let me sign off. Don't get away at whatever. I'm going to sign off to everybody. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great week. We'll be back next week with another great guest. Not quite as great as the one we have great on today, but you know what? We do our best to get good guests on this show. Everybody set your goals, write them down when you step on that yellow brick road into your future. Have knowledge of what you're doing and be a role model to your sphere of influence and be the best you can be. If you're the best you can be, whether you're first, second, number 1, or 10th, it doesn't matter. Performing your best means you're winning. And that's what we're all about on this show. On It's Time Radio. So be a winner. Be back next week. Be like Jon. Jon Life, hashtag Buff Life, hashtag all good. Oh, and don't forget to take your puncher's chance this week. All right, everybody. Bumper out. Enough shill. See you later. Bye-bye.